Okay, you're on.
All right, so the question that we were working on in the earlier video was, does the customer need to pull out all these bungs? So keep in mind, these planks have shrunk a little bit in width and a little bit in thickness. So you may get like a quarter turn because your planks, because they're dry, are not as, the dimension has changed, they're not as thick. So I pull a dozen bungs on the side in random places, and matter of fact, here's a bung about to come out anyway. So I pop that bung out, and I'd see how much I can turn that screw. Quarter turn would probably be normal. If you can turn that screw a half turn or 3/4 of a turn, something like that, then it's probably time to be what we call refastening. And you pull each individual bung, and you tighten each individual screw, and then you got to rebung it.
Now, what if the screws spin?
The screw spin, what we do is we extract the screw, and we put in, really the easiest way is just put in a dowel.
Okay.
And glue it in with some either Gorilla or Type-On 3, and break it off. And then we use because you're breaking it off at the surface here, we use a VIX bit, and we just touch the end of that dowel and trim the dowel down the original hole, and then we just re-drill it with a countersink combination bit. Just re-drill it, and you can either put the screw back in or put a stainless screw in, or if you're a purist, put a silicon bronze screw back in. We can get you those. Most people just use stainless, and they use the sheet metal screw. They don't worry about getting a wood screw.
Okay. What about these cracks? There's a few cracks here in some of these planks.
Oh, like these guys right here?
Let me zoom back here just a little bit. Yeah, those right there.
No, these will just fill right in with, the stain might get some of them, and some Fama wood filler on that would be no problem. This crack is right here. Is still together. I have some Fama wood there. Here's a crack.
Okay, what are you referring to?
It's Fama wood or Fama wood. FAMOWOOD is made by Eclectic Products, and comes in mahogany, comes in natural, and you'd use mahogany, and it'll still accept stain. So, but the natural won't accept enough stain to look good. So, and there's water-based and there's oil-based. And it doesn't really matter which one you use as long as you get it sealed. Okay. We can.
So you just work that into the crack. Okay. What about this one up here? There's another plank that might be a little bit more serious.
Yeah, that might be a bit more serious right there. That one, we would probably, and you've already lost some bungs and somebody's pulled some screws out. This one, you could actually take your screws out, peel this guy back, it'll just spring out, and then get you some, spread that crack open, put some West System epoxy in there, clamp it, and then put it back on the boat. And then, fare it in. And just be careful not to get a bunch of epoxy into your wood grain, because try to be as neat as you can, because anything that fills the grain goes is going to make it difficult for the stain to go in. So you just got to be careful when you do that.
So I probably don't need to replace that plank.
No, it's in good shape.
Okay.
It really is in good shape.
Okay.
Matter of fact, that might have been. No, that's one plank. But it is a line where the grain changes. Sorry to say that might have been a plank that was glued together, but only if that had been replaced by someone in the past, which is entirely possible.
Okay.
Otherwise, the factory wouldn't have glued one together. They wouldn't have glued one. Your plank seams are in pretty good shape. Another indicator that you probably aren't going to need to refasten is that your planks are pretty even.
They're not cupped. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, there's not a big change in thickness or mismatch at the seams.
Okay.
There's a little cupping on the planks or at the seams, but that could come out with sanding. But these would be ones to check. You got a batten back here, and you got frames here, and you got frames here. So these would be some to check and see, like if you have a little bit of a mismatch like we do right here, that bottom screw is one to see what, and you may want to refasten just in certain areas, because you don't want to sand that smooth if it's loose.
Oh, because then it would just move on us.
Yes, it just move on you and pop the bung out and everything else. So you'd want to check. This is a candidate for right here, checking these guys and refastening right here, no matter whether you do the whole side of the boat or not, and see if you can pull those in more even before you sand.
How do you get bungs out?
I use a pick, and I get some smaller ones. They're they're like an ice pick, but they're about yay long.
Okay.
And I poke a hole, and that kind of splits it. And I poke another hole, and that splits it a little more. And you work from the center. Once you pull the center out, the rest of it will collapse into the center area.
Okay. How are those bungs held in?
You got to be real careful. A lot of people will poke in there, and then they'll start prying. But you pry against the edge of the hole,
yes,
and it'll indent the edge of the hole.
Yeah.
I'll go get a pick and show you.
Okay.
Next, the other question. You had a question?
How are the bungs held in?
From the factory, they dipped them in varnish. Presumably, I'm presuming that the varnish was too contaminated to use any other way, and they dipped these bungs in the varnish, and the varnish was their glue.
Okay.
If you put them in with there's two schools of thought. Some people tell you not to put them in epoxy because it'll leave a little black ring, and it will.
Mm-hmm.
And some people will tell you not to put them in with wood glue because the wood glue, even though it's waterproof, it will soften a little bit, and if you have a tapered bung and your planks are expanding, it'll have a tendency to pop the bung out a little bit.
Okay, that's Type Bond 3 you're talking about?
Yeah, Type Bond 3. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, so Gorilla Glue would be a harder glue. But Gorilla Glue will also leave you that ring.
Okay.
So, it's two schools of thought. It's kind of whichever problem you want to sign up for. Epoxy gives you, you could go with the traditional method, which I've not done. Epoxy gives you the black ring, which is not so objectionable. Some people say, no, you absolutely can't do that, but some restorers do. But you get a black ring, it outlines your bungs, it makes them more noticeable. That's not a bad